What's going on? This is TryHard. Today we're going to do the tier list for the Kabloom class. So there's a couple things I do like to look at when I'm making a tier list. The weaknesses of the cards. You know, is this card too easy to kill? Does it suck if you play it on the board? Is it worth it to even play it at all? Is it good to top deck later on in the game? Are there any synergies with the card? You know, not that synergy is a huge thing, but we do keep it in mind if we are trying to make this tier list. So I'm just going to start off with the first card here, Astro Shroom. So Astro Shroom is a card where if you drop him onto the board, you can do whatever you want on the other side and you'll still get rewarded for playing PvZHeroes. Every single card you play, you're going to do 1 damage to the hero, right? You don't even have to drop Astro Shroom dry. You can drop Astro Shroom when you're trying to put, you know, a couple of cards on the board as well, and then Astro Shroom's still going to get value. That's the beauty of Astro Shroom. Just because he's weak, you know, with the 1 HP, doesn't mean that he's going to die that turn, or at all even, right? Because the reason you're playing Astro Shroom is to get that little type of damage in. And for that, I'm going to drop Astro Shroom up here. Great synergy with the Mushroom class, Bullseye, cheap card. You really can't go wrong with that. The next card I have here is Berry Blast. So Berry Blast is doing so much for the Kabloom class. Can kill pretty much everything early game in the game. So with that in mind, we do want to put Berry Blast closer to S tier because Berry Blast goes face. It could proc block. It can kill cheap cards. It also has Berry Synergy. Listen, Berry Blast is just a great card. Alright, Berry Blast is probably 4 copies in all your deck lists, so I don't even want to hear it. Berry Blast S tier. Reincarnation. Reincarnation's interesting, because I want to put it high up on the tier list, but not really, right? So the Reincarnation, it does give you that +1/+1 buff, which could be great, you know, but that's not what we're too concerned about. We're concerned about the cards it transforms into. You know, one of the things I was talking about earlier is if you top deck the card, is it good? If you top deck Reincarnation, you're screwed, right? It's a 1-cost 2/2. It doesn't get the ability until the next turn passes. But there are some interesting things Reincarnation can turn into that if you do get it, and then, you know, something that can synergize well with your board, maybe your even whole hand, it is worth it. So for Reincarnation, it's not S tier, it's not an S tier prospect. I wouldn't even put it in A tier, right? Because the +1/+1 buff is just not enough. Maybe I'd give it A tier if it was +2/+2, but not really. The cards it does transform into, they're okay. A lot of them are bad, but it's too unpredictable. So I'm gonna just drop Reincarnation actually in B tier, because it still does his thing, right? If it didn't have the +1/+1, you know, I'd drop it at the C tier any day of the week. But because it can give it that +1/+1, B tier prospect. 0-cost Puff Shroom. So 0-cost Puff Shroom, it's interesting because it does have some pretty nice synergy with the Mushroom class. You could do it with, you know, Pine Clone. You could do it with Gloom Shroom. There's so many different things you could do with that. You can evolve Elderberry on it. It's just 0-cost flexibility. And that's what I love about the Puff Shroom. Is it good enough to get S tier? Probably not. It's actually very flimsy, very weak. To be honest, I don't even know if it's A tier, but it does have its uses, I think. So Puff Shroom, I'm definitely going to keep that in B tier. Button Shroom, you know, you get it off the More Spore. Button Shroom's F tier. It's just not good. I don't want to sugarcoat it or anything like that. Button Shroom's just not a good card. It's like this, but it costs. Nah, we're not liking that. Grapes of Wrath. Grapes of Wrath, it's a very good card against the right opponent. Against a good player, it might not be that good. You know, a lot of people can abuse Grapes of Wrath to get a block meter power. So, you know, you have a full block meter, you rock at the Grapes of Wrath, get your other power, bada boom, bada bing, which can be kind of scary. Grapes of Wrath can also be manipulated in a way like that, even chump blocked, because you're not always going to get the 6 damage. That's the problem with Grapes of Wrath. If it gave you that 6 damage every single time you played it, it's like boom. Alright, that's a problem that, you know, Gas Giant has. You wait until the right time, then you kill it, then you don't take 6 damage. So Definitely an abusable card. I don't think it's, that high up in the tiers at all, to be honest. I might even drop it below B tier because it's too abusable in that sense. It's just not good. It really is just not good. So Sonic Bloom. Where do I put Sonic Bloom? Listen, Sonic Bloom, he's only going to be good after a board is developed pretty decently too. Sonic Bloom is also an awkward card, right? And, we were talking about this with Grapes of Wrath. If they have kind of a closely, closed up block meter, you're not going to want to play your Sonic Bloom. In fact, you play Sonic Bloom, you draw them 3 Eureka cards. You don't want to do that. So it's a card where, you could be excited to play it. You can have an awesome board, and then you can't get any use out of the Sonic Bloom because their block meter is full. And that's the problem. If it was Bullseye, I would put it up there in the tiers. But this card, it's going right next to Grapes of Wrath. Because they have their uses, right? They have their uses. It's circumstantial when you can get that out. Petalmorphosis. Petalmorphosis, I'm an RNG type of guy, but Petalmorphosis is not a card I would run in a deck list. First of all, it's too expensive. And there's a lot of times where I do play the Petalmorphosis and, it's kind of the reincarnation problem where it's just not good, the card that you get from it. The good thing about it is you do draw a card. So it's like 4 cost, draw a card, maybe get a button shroom in the process, which is F tier. But it could also be 4 costs, Great Zucchini, win the game, but most Petalmorphosis cards, they're not that great. 4 costs, too expensive, so I can't even see myself putting it in C tier because it doesn't have the use case that these cards have. It doesn't have the flexibility where you can play it like Reincarnation does. It's just an expensive potential throw of the game. And potential expensive throw of the games, we're putting those in D tier. Bluesberry. Bluesberry is one of those cards where you play it, but it's too expensive. So if you look at Bluesberry itself, 5 cost. Alright, I'm spending 5 sun on this card. What am I getting out of it? You're getting 2 damage. Okay, 2 damage, that's fine. What are the stats? Maybe that makes up for it. 3/3. No, it's not a good card. I'm not gonna put an F tier, but it does have, the berry synergy, which could be good. You might get it for free from, high voltage current, or, you might get more damage from a Sergeant Strongberry that's on the board. You could even evolve it with the Barbarian. But Bluesberry itself, spending 5 sun to do 2 damage for a 3/3 body, it's not worth it in my eyes. It's not doing enough. So that is a D tier. Sizzle. So Sizzle is like a worse Squash. And I mean that seriously, right? So with Sizzle, you have a card where, if you compare it to Squash, which, it's not fair because Squash is in a different class altogether, but if you bring those 2 cards side by side, right? Just imagine this, just picture it. Close your eyes for a second. You have Squash, destroy anything, literally anything 5 sun. But you have Sizzle, destroy or only deal 5 damage for 5 sun. So I know this is unfair, I'm giving you guys fake scenarios. So say Garg throwing Garg on the board, whereas Squash can make quick work of that. You don't want to Sizzle that because it's doing damage, or maybe a jacked up newspaper on some rock wall shenanigans. Maybe he took some vitamin Z pills. You don't really want to do the Sizzle on that because it's gonna mess up your board state. It's gonna give your opponent an advantage. So Sizzle for 5 sun to potentially throw the game, it's not worth it. The only time you'd use Sizzle is honestly if you're trying to lose the match. So I'm gonna put Sizzle in F tier. Shelf Shroom. So Shelf Shroom, it does have the mushroom synergy. It's half decent altogether besides that. Because it's cheap, right? We like cheap cards. It's like Bluesberry if it made sense. Where would I put Shelf Shroom? The fact that you have to remove the Shelf Shroom, like evolve on top of the Shelf Shroom, right? Or fusion on top of the Shelf Shroom. I forget what the keyword is. but you would lose the Shelf Shroom if you do 2 damage, which can be a much cheaper Bluesberry just for 2 different cards, right? Which could be good. Shelf Shroom does have some good uses. We were talking about the Mushroom synergy earlier, and the Berry synergy that it has. So it has, you know, Berry, Mushroom, the best of both worlds for the Kabloom class, right? With those types of synergies and, you know, the fact that it's so cheap and so flexible for 2 costs, doesn't have great stats, but you don't care about the stats, you care about the ability that you're getting. 2 Sun, basically Berry Blast, but a little bit weaker. So in a situation like that where, you know, it could be circumstantial too, I am going to, you know, drop him in D tier. Not super high up, but, you know, he does have its uses. You know, it could be better than Bluesberry, but So next we have Cro-Magnolia. Cro-Magnolia, I have a love-hate relationship with this card, but, you know, feelings aside, let's look at the card itself. 3 cost, 2/4, evolve everything, or evolve the card you have there and then make everything, you know, a little bit buffed up. Is that useful? It could be useful. Is it useful with the Kabloom class itself? Not necessarily. The Kabloom class is kind of a weaker class. We need more HP with our cards for the Kabloom class, and Cro-Magnolia only focuses on offense. So if you have a good secondary class with it, it could be good, but then again, it's too much of a committal where you play the Cro-Magnolia, you might not even get the damage, right? But even if you do get the damage, are you going to win the game off the Cro-Mag? The only time, you know, Cro-Magnolia would be, you know, half decent would be if you had some type of strike through with it to ensure that the Cro-Magnolia cards are going to get their uses, right? So Cro-Magnolia, if you have it with a good secondary class, could be a good card, but Cro-Magnolia by itself with the Kabloom class in general, just not that great. You know, plays around Weed Spray potentially. Is that enough to put it really high up on the tier list? No, definitely not. So I'm just gonna put him in C tier because it does have its uses. It can hang out with the pros. It could do some decent damage, but it's not that card, right? Mushroom Ringleader. Mushroom Ringleader, I almost want to put this in F tier. 3 cost. Okay, so we were talking earlier about circumstantial cards. Mushroom Ringleader is circumstantial, where you need half a decent board developed to get your use out of Mushroom Ringleader, which has 1 HP. If it had buffed the HP as well as the attack, I know there's some, you know, beats cards that do that, which do a better job at this, but Mushroom Ringleader, he's cheap. That's where they're trying to sell you on the Mushroom Ringleader. Is he a good card? Let's look at the synergies. Mushroom by itself, not that great, but 1 HP is definitely not the type of card where, you know, I put Mushroom Ringleader down for 3. I want an effect. I want it to do something in case things go south. It doesn't have a 1 destroyed ability. It's just Mushroom Ringleader dying to Mushroom Ringleader things. So for that, I'm actually going to put this in F tier. Not a good card. Velocirashi. These Radish Hunters, very solid card. 3 costs, basically, you get the 1/3, but you get the other 1/3 that protects the 1/3 behind it. It's basically 3 costs, 1/3, defend it with another copy of itself. The thing I like about this card is every time you do draw, you know, it's getting buffed up a little bit, which is great, you know, because it, you know, the block meter cards that you get, the cards you get from card draw, and the cards you get at the beginning of the turn, all benefit the Velocirashi Hunter. So if we look at the synergies of Velociradish Hunter, it does actually have the root synergy, which could be good if, you know, you're running Starch Lord or something like that. I know a couple roots actually draw, you know, beta carotene powers draw some roots. It's just, it's a solid card. Would I put it in S tier? Does it deserve to be in S tier? Probably not, because the turn you play it, it can easily be countered. Whereas if we look at those cards that are in S tier right now, Astro Shroom, the turn you play it, you can get your effect, bada boom, bada bing. Berry Blast, bada boom, bada bing, wipe things out. But Velociradish Hunter, the turn you play it, it can be countered, which actually, you know, gives it some negative points there in the tier list. I know we were talking highly about it, but that is something to consider when you are talking about the Velocity Radish Hunter. You know, it's easily countered by many things, and you might not get the effect, the full effect of the Velocity Radish Hunter. Top decking at late game could be a liability as well. So it is good, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. Does it deserve S tier? Debatable, probably not. Sour grapes. So sour grapes is a worse it's like the plant chickening in a way, but similar to Sizzle, we were talking about how sour grapes or doing damage itself could be a bad thing for such an expensive card. It does have the berry synergy, which could be good. Couple that with a sergeant, you could do some decent damage. 4 cost 2/2. We're not looking at the stats itself, right? We're looking at the ability, the one plate ability. So dealing 1 damage by turn 4, it can deal with a lot of things where you might need to clean up on aisle 3. You know, you already damaged the card, you might need to clean it up by turn 4. So turn 4, you can kind of wipe out most of the zombies 1 through 3. That's okay. But the fact that it costs 4, it's so expensive, and doing the 1 damage could be bad. You know, there's imp throwing imp. You can't pick and choose the 1 damage you're doing. You just kind of have to do it. You know, there's a barrel on the board, you got to eat that. There's a newspaper, you got to eat that. Gas giant, shoot, good luck. But you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's a late game card. But still, sour grapes, where would I even put it? Definitely not S tier. A tier, no. The 1 damage, it's not enough. B tier, probably not. C tier, no. I can't honestly see myself putting this in C tier. D tier is where it should be, because it has its uses, but do the ends justify the means? They don't. Okay, so electric blueberry. Electric blueberry's 5 cost 0/5. The ability, you know, dealing the damage to whatever could be a liability, and you know how I feel about liabilities in this tier list. They're trash. But okay, let's give it a benefit of the doubt, right? 5 cost. You play it on the board. Ignore the counters. Let's ignore Rolling Stone, Weed Spray, all that good stuff. 5 cost 0/5 random target. Is it going to hit the card you want it to hit? No, it might not. And that's the problem with Electric Blueberry. If you can pick it, oh, I'd shoot this thing up the tier list a couple ranks. But the fact that it's random, you can't pick it. 5 cost, you might not even get the attack. You know, couple that with, you know, the things I told you guys to ignore, the Weed Spray, the Rolling Stone. It's just not good. So we're gonna put that actually in D tier. Not F tier, because it does have its uses, of course. Cherry Bomb. Is Cherry Bomb a good card? 6 cost, deal 4 damage. By turn 6, the zombies will have so much. So, if we're talking turn 6 zombies, a lot of turn 6 zombies have more than 4 HP. Dealing 4 damage turn 6 is not that great. The fact that it doesn't, you know, affect the whole board. It's only 3 set lanes that you pick. It's just not that good, in my opinion. Where would I put it? Listen, you could put it in F tier. Does it deserve F tier? Probably not, because again, it has its uses. Does it deserve D tier? No, because, you know, if there was a tier in between F and D, E tier. There is no E tier here. So the fact that it has the berry synergy is actually going to give it an edge. But besides that, I can't see myself putting it higher than D tier. Card like this, it shouldn't be based, or it shouldn't be next to a card like this, because it's better than this card. Because it deals with 3 different lanes, and it has the berry synergy. Whereas Sizzle, literally, I don't know what they were thinking when they made that card. But yeah, definitely not the greatest card. So now we're on to Kernel Corn. Kernel Corn is actually a card that is half decent. So if we're talking about what we wanted from the Cherry Bomb, Kernel Corn does everything we wanted Cherry Bomb to do, which was deal with all the lanes. Perfect. 4 damage. Whatever. We don't need more. We don't want to be greedy. You know, this is Pop Cap we're talking about. So in addition to 2 more sun than the Cherry Bomb, you're getting a 6/6 body, which is very, very good. 6/6 body, I love it. So the fact that we get a 6/6 body and it deals with all the other lanes, we're actually going to put that not in D tier, not in C tier. We're gonna put that in B tier. B tier is definitely where that could go, because it's a card that when it's on the board, its presence is felt, and I feel like that's what can get the card up in this tier list. The fact that it has, if you play it, you get the ability right away. All right, perfect. Oh, we get a 6/6 body too. Solid. I like that. Okay, high voltage current. High voltage current. Where am I gonna put high voltage current? You could put it in C tier, but let's talk about it real quick. You get the berry synergy and you do draw another berry. If it draws you another high voltage current, all right, boom. You get basically 1 cost free card that can buff itself if you're already running high voltage current in your deck list. So chance of you having another berry in your deck list, it could be high. You know, depending on, you know, how you build your deck list. But let's ignore other cards. Let's ignore synergies real quick. 1 cost 1/1 draw card. I like it. It's very good. The amount of berries it could draw itself. There's a lot of good pool of berries that it can draw. And when those berries do damage, it does get buffed. It is a little flimsy, but you know, it's 1 cost draw card. So that's very good. Is it super great where it can get, you know, SA tier, B tier? No. Is it terrible where, you know, it gets D F tier? No. Is it right in the middle where it has its uses? It could pop in, pop out. It does its little thing. It dies. But you always know it was played that game. Yes. I'm going to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it in B tier. The amount of different berries it could draw. It's 1 cost card draw. The only bad if we're talking about the bad things of high voltage current, is the fact that it procs the block for 1, which could be a deal breaker for a lot of people. But if you ignore that, I think you have a good card in your hands. I think you have a really good card in your hands with that. Shroom for 2. Oh man, Shroom for 2. It does so much. 1 cost, win the game. Not, you know, win the game, but it is pretty good. So I am going to put Shroom for 2 in A tier because it has the team up potential for the Pineapple. It has the mushroom synergy, the team up synergy, Cob Cannon. It has team up, mushroom. It's 1 cost, so you're not committing much, and you can turn it into a powerhouse with many different cards in this game. Many different cards in this game. And for that, I am honestly gonna put Shroom for 2. This is turning into like a team up tier list, A tier, but it is so good. I think it's a very flexible card, and it honestly deserves to be an A tier, I think. So Buff Shroom, we were just talking about Buff Shroom. Is Buff Shroom a good enough card to put up there next to its buddies? You know, if we look at Buff Shroom, 2 cost, buff all the mushrooms by +1/+1. It is a circumstantial card. I told you guys, listen, circumstantial cards, not my thing, because you do need mushrooms on the board to get the use out of Buff Shroom. Say you don't even have mushrooms on the board. You have a 2 cost 2/2, which, you know, we talked about 2 cost 2/2s. We know where we put 2 cost 2/2s, but at least this one had an ability that you can evolve off of. This one might not, you might not be so lucky with the Buff Shroom. So I am not going to put it that high on the tier list, but he is kind of important, but not really. So he's a forgettable card. I'm going to put him in D tier. Wild Berry, 2 cost 4/1. This is honestly a card I'm going to put in D tier as well. Because it's very weak, but it's not even that. If you look at the ability, the fact that you can't pick the lane can be a big deal breaker. It does have the berry synergy, which could be good. You know, berry synergy, we love it. But is it enough to bump this up the tier list? No, I don't think so. It does its damage, which could be great, but he can't even kill teleportation zombie face to face, which not many cards can, but teleportation zombie's not even supposed to kill cards. But that's just one card example I'm talking about. There are a lot of reasons, you know, that I don't have time to go into why Wildberry can be such a bad card, and it's just not worth it to run in your deck list, I don't think. Even if you're going for an aggro deck list, I don't even think Wildberry deserves to be in it, to be honest. The fact that if you top deck it late game and you can't even pick the lane, you know what? We're not even talking about Wildberry anymore. We're done. It's D tier. It's staying there. Imitator. So Imitator is interesting, right? Because it can be an S tier card because it copies the card you play. Copy an S tier card. Oh, instant S tier. But it is a good card, I think. I am going to put it up there on the tier list because it does have... The reason I'm going to put it up there on the tier list is because it has 4 HP. It doesn't have 3 HP. The 4 HP is huge because it lives lightning bolts and it lives wrath. The fact that it can sustain itself, you know, against these big threats on the zombie side and then come back and imitate your boy, you know, that you're just plotting the whole match is great. Is it A tier? No. Do we need to mention it? Yes. B tier, 100%. Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy. Where would I put Poison Ivy? Not a good card by any means. Aggro decks, you can run it, but it doesn't do enough for the 3 cost. It can turn into a 3 cost 1/3 real quick, and that's what I don't like about it. So it can do the 5 damage, but once it does this 5 damage, it's most likely going to die. It does have the berry synergy, which can make or break it, right? But I don't think it's that good. I'm actually going to put this in D tier. Some aggro cards deserve to be that far back on the tier list. Zapricot. So Zapricot keeps the attack. So it's a little bit better than the Poison Ivy. So I'm actually going to put Zapricot a little bit ahead of Poison Ivy. Like I was starting to put these in order in the tier list, but just kind of threw them in there a little bit. But Zapricot is better than Poison Ivy, I think, but it's not as good as these cards. It doesn't... The turn you play it, you're just looking for 4 damage. Okay, cool. You're looking to maybe kill, what, Sampadon. Alright, that's fine. But does that justify playing it? Is it worth it if you're trying to kill Raiding Raptor? No, I don't think so. But it is a card that counters a lot of things, but it's, you know, it's not in the tier as these cards that actually affect things around them. Damage is cool, but is damage the everything? Not really, no. Transfiguration. Ooh. Transfiguration. It's... Listen, RNG lover aside, it's not that great. I know. It's weird hearing me say Transfigurations, because, you know, I love Transfiguration in my deck list. I play it on stream. But Transfiguration itself is a card where you can play it, but to get the use out of it, you need a board that is developed with HP that makes sense. So a walnut board, maybe a high HP board. But then again, Transfiguration can be a double-edged sword, because say you have a decent board set up, you don't want a Transfiguration. So then it becomes a circumstantial card, right? And you don't want circumstantial cards high up on a tier list, right? You only want cards that you play them, you get the effect. Is this enough to run it in my deck list? Transfiguration, no. Can it turn into some good things? Yes. Can it make your board a powerhouse? Yes. It's not going to die the turn you play it, unless they have direct removal, of course. But there's always that chance where it could become something good, because it's so hard to kill if you don't have a rocket or fruitcake. Those 2 cards aside, Transfiguration does not deserve to be in D tier. Transfiguration is actually a C tier prospect. Gloomshroom. So Gloomshroom is a very, very good card. 3 damage. So it's already kind of better than Cherry Bomb. But here's what makes it completely better than Cherry Bomb. The fact that you get the 5/5 body. And by turn 5, you should have a mushroom on the board if you are running that type of deck. Okay, so synergy aside, mushroom synergy aside, let's just look at, Gloomshroom for what it's worth. 5 cost, 5/5 bullseye. I like it. It's very good. So the bullseye part is what really sold me on that. But let's say we add another ability to it. Evolve mushroom, deal 3 damage around. And by turn 5, your mushrooms are probably weaker than 5/5, right? So you're technically even upgrading your board in the process. It's a very good card. It's actually going to skip the C tier. I'm going to put it in B tier. Does it deserve to be higher? No. Because it is, for what it's worth, slightly circumstantial. You do need a mushroom to get that use out of it. So I'm going to stick that in B tier. Dandelion King. Here's the thing about Dandelion King. It's a good card. 6 cost, 4/4. Cut your opponent's HP in half. But here's the problem with Dandelion King. It can turn into a 6 cost, 4/4, give your opponent a power circumstantial card. Besides that, right, let's say we are getting our half damage in. By turn 6, unless you're running a control deck, you're probably already doing a decent amount of damage to them. Whereas every turn that goes by, Dandelion King becomes worse for, not every turn that goes by, every turn that you're doing damage, Dandelion King becomes a little bit worse because he's doing a little bit less damage, which could be a problem to a lot of people. But he doesn't have any synergies, that makes sense, so, that does hurt it as well. It is expensive, you might not find a time to play it, and, if you can't play it the turn you want to cut down their HP in half, because either the block meter is doing weird things or there's such low HP that Dandelion King doesn't even matter anymore, then it becomes a problem. So I'm gonna put it in C tier because it is still good, but sometimes. Banana Bomb. This card, okay, so if we're looking at Berry Blast, right? Berry Blast is 2 cost, deal 3 damage. Okay, what if we subtract the sun and then we do half? So that would be 1.5 damage per sun, technically, right? But Banana Bomb, what? It does 2 damage. So it's already, in a way, better than a Berry Blast if Berry Blast was kind of cheap. You understand what I'm saying right here? So, Banana Bomb's very good, in my opinion. So Banana Bomb's gonna go really high up on the tier list. It's just a cheap card, can get things done, and it doesn't go face, which could be a deal breaker for a lot of people, but I do think it warrants something really high up. I am gonna put it in A tier. 100% A tier. Cheap, does its job. Yeah, I like it. So we have Hot Lava. Hot Lava. So I've never seen somebody run this card unironically, which, that speaks for itself. But let's say we did want to run Hot Lava. We'd only want to run Hot Lava if we are running maybe a hurt deck, Transfiguration, maybe a Hibernating Berry type of thing. But Hot Lava itself is so weak that, okay, maybe you can run Perrier Cup with it. Hot Lava is so weak that it can be, there's so many zombies that can abuse Hot Lava. And the fact that Hot Lava is so cheap, they can play all those zombies after that, right? So you got people running Imp throwing Imp. There's no deck where, it doesn't have a card that can't abuse Hot Lava, I don't think. So me personally, because Hot Lava can be such a liability, I'm not gonna put it anywhere up here. It does have uses, but it helps the zombies more than it helps the plants. Plants, you don't really want to take the damage like that, because zombies are getting your 1 damage from this, and they get tricks afterwards. Whew, good luck. That's an F tier, in my opinion. Next thing we have is the little radish dude. I actually lost to this card recently, but losing to that card aside, Is the card good? No, the card is not good. 1 cost. Okay, say you do play the little hatchling dude turn 1. Alright, 1 cost, 1/2. He hits face, bada boom. Then next turn he's a 2/2, which is already behind, which turn 2 monsters are coming out. You should already be, starting to think about better cards than this card, turn 2. And it doesn't really hang with the best on turn 2. So to get the best use out of it, you need to draw a card. Which, how are you going to draw a card that early? And say you do top deck it later in the game, it's already so flimsy that it doesn't even get much use. So the fact that it can give itself attack, I'm not going to put in F tier. But the fact that it can't really do anything, it's too slow in a sense where you play it, it's not going to pick up pace until much later. So I'm going to put in D tier. Whereas you have to buff it up to even get some type of use out of it. Maybe a turn 3 play hatchling vegetation mutation with Captain Combustible. Miss me with that. So this card spawns the hot lava. So does that change anything for its fate? Potentially. The fact that you get a body with the hot lava. But is it enough to put it up here? No. It's D tier. I don't even have to talk much about that because I already know it's D tier. Because the turn you play, I should even put it in F tier to be honest. The turn you play it, okay, bada boom, it drops the hot lava. Next turn it's dying. You know that, right? Next turn, Fireweed is not going to stay on the board because the hot lava is doing 1 damage to it next turn. Liability. I don't like it. But the fact that you do get a body, D tier. Very Angry. Very Angry, 3 cost. Very expensive. Kind of need a board developed. D tier. Easy D tier. This card, Invasive Species. Do I want Invasive Species up there? No. You need an environment to get use out of it. Maybe you fight an HG one day. You just invasive species everywhere. But say there's no environments on both sides. But you would probably run an environment if you are the person running this card. For whatever reason, if you are running this card. It has 4 HP. And you know me, I like 4 HP for turn 3. Survive Wrath, survive the Lightning Bolts. Is it enough to bump this up? No. This card is a D tier. It's not F tier because it does have that ability, so could be a good ability in some situations. Not all of them. Poison Mushroom. I'm actually going to put this in C tier. Poison Mushroom can do some serious damage if you let him. He has the Mushroom synergy, drop him in lane 4. Let your mushrooms take the blame in lane 1 through 3 and profit. Problem is you can't pick the target, but when Poison Mushroom, or not Poison Mushroom, when Punish Room, keep saying Poison Mushroom, when Punish Room does that thing where it just unleashes all of its attacks because somebody did a weed spray or something like that where they had to weed spray, it could be really good. It's definitely not a D tier card or F tier card because it does have some pretty good use cases. Malakale. So Malakale is a high skill cap card, and I say that legitimately. You're only gonna play Malakale if you got something in your deck list that you have something on the board where you know what you're gonna get afterwards. Some people, you play Malakale after the Pine Clone. Could be really good. Does it downgrade some boards? Yes, it does. So in a situation like that, it could be a liability. It is circumstantial. You do need a board kind of developed, but by the time you drop Malakale, you already know what you're probably doing. You're holding on to it until that very second where you can't get some use out of it. So if you just look at it from a perspective of, oh, I'm getting a 3/2 for 4. Man, that sucks. But what does it have where, it might not suck? It has the Leafy synergy, which, there's not much Leafy synergy you can do. What? Savage Spinach upgrade. Okay, you can get it from Lily Pad. Alright, that's fine. But the real thing that makes it shine is the upgrades. And That you can't ignore that. And I think that's a reason I'm gonna put this in B tier. Not A tier because again, you do need a board developed. You might downgrade your board. So you might not even want to play it sometimes. So yeah. I think B tier is right for it. Pine Clone. Pine Clone's good. Pine Clone's very good. 3-3. By turn 4, 3-3, if you already have a pretty sizable board, not sizable, because then you're downgrading a Pine Clone. But if you already have a good amount of mushrooms everywhere, or whatever you're running to get use out of this Pine Clone, it could be good. You have some cards in the water lane, Pine Clone. You have some cards in the ground, Pine Clone. You have a card that got nerfed from Shrink Ray. Your opponent used Nibble. Upgrade it with Pine Clone. That's fine. So it's not S tier. Definitely not S tier. It is more of an A tier card, I think. Because Pine Clone, there are a lot of things you can do to it to abuse it. But, it might even be S tier. But, I don't know. I think I like it in A tier, though. Because 3-3 is not huge. If it was 4-4, maybe it's S tier. 3-3 is not huge. Do play around a weed spray, that type of thing. I like it there. I definitely do like it in the situation it's in. Problem is, you do need the board developed. So you top deck at late game, you have nothing on the board, Pine Clone's useless. You have a good board, Pine Clone's useless. So A tier. Definitely not S tier. S tier is like, very, very, you can use it in every situation. Atomic Bomba Granite. So this card, 5 cost, 5/2. I'm going to put this in F tier. It's not good. For 5 cost, I want something that's going to be very, very good. And even if you play it so that it dies, the seedling, it's just not good. And the fact that it is also circumstantial. You put it in lane 1 or lane 4, you don't get the most use out of it. You have to put it in lane 2 or 3. Okay, all right. Say you do want to put it in lane 2 or 3. That's fine. But then the seedling has to be good. And is seedling gonna be good? Probably not. So yeah, that's a F tier in my opinion. You're just not getting as much as you should from 5 Sun. I don't think. Speaking of not getting as much as you should from 5 Sun, this card, 5 cost, 3 lanes, but it's only 2 damage, right? So is that good? No. Why? Because it spawns the hot lava. Is the hot lava useful for us? Probably not. For 5 cost, I want to do that to every lane. And, the hot lava, it's cool, but it's only going to work if... So you can't do it in a way where it's not a commit. By turn 5, turn after that, you play this card, that's one of the only cards you're going to play. And if you're only doing 2 damage to, cards that they're playing turn 5 or turn 4, it might not even kill them. You summon a hot lava, whoop-de-doo, right? F tier. Poison Oak. Is Poison Oak good? No. Poison Oak is not good. But it does do a lot of damage. It can catch people off guard. They commit, you drop a Poison Oak. Could be pretty solid. It has good stats. 4-5 and, anti-hero. It could pop off with hella damage. Is that enough to get it out of F tier? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Yeah, I'm going to put it in D tier. Yeah, it does have synergy, but he does a lot of damage, so that's D tier. That's D tier stuff. Blooming Heart. Ooh, okay. So Blooming Heart is very good. It's basically what this should have been, but it wasn't. So Blooming Heart give you that +1 if you can call it circumstantial if you want. That's fine. But turn 1, if you drop it turn 1, you're gonna hit something if they don't kill it. So automatically turn 2, it's already a 3/2, and they have to deal with it. Whether it's efficiently or not depends on your opponent, right? But for 1 Sun, I'd rather my opponent kind of deal with it however they want. If I only, you know, spent one sun on something that could be a powerhouse later on. So, in a way, it is weak. It is good. But I do think it deserves some C tier loving. Poison Mushroom. I think it's too weak for 1 cost. You might be able to sneak in 3 damage turn 1. But if you do, remember, if you do top deck this card later on, it is so weak. The only time this card is actually good is turn 1. Maybe they play something committal turn 2, then you could maybe sneak another one in, but for 3 damage, it's not enough. If it was as strong as Mini Ninja, maybe? I see why they didn't make it as strong as Mini Ninja, because, you know, it's an unanswerable potential if they do commit, so that could be an issue. But it does have Mushroom Synergy, so that is going to move it up a little bit, but it's just barely getting out of F tier. Banana Launcher. Banana Launcher, a very good card. 2 cost, 3 HP. So here's what you can do with that. You can live a lot of things. You can chump block a lot of things. And you're getting the draw. You are forcing the Dino Roar to happen. There's a lot of Dino Roars in this game. Not even just, you know, the Kabloom side itself. But if we're talking the other classes in the game, you combine Banana Launcher with it, get some good use out of it, and you get the A tier Banana Bomb. So the fact that this spawns those cards can be very good. Is it good later on in the game as a top deck situation? Probably not. That's why it's not going to get S tier. But I do think it deserves to be A tier. A tier for sure. Seedling. No, Seedling is F tier. There are some good cards, but you know, with the pool that Seedling has, it's so constricted to 6 and under. There's a lot of garbage cards in this game. A lot of garbage cards. And if Seedling turns into one of those, you will never forgive yourself. So if Seedling, to get use, it would have to turn into a card that costs more, like 3 or more, but it'd have to be less than 6. And there's still even some cards that are bad in those, in that, you know, number range. And if you deviate to, you know, the 0, 1, 2, whatever, garbage. So, yeah. Definitely don't want to put Seedling even higher than that. Cosmic Mushroom. Drawing another mushroom, giving it, you know, some more attack. Could be good. Mushrooms are weak. If Cosmic Mushroom gave it some attack in addition to HP, you know, the Mushroom class, they don't need more attack. These dudes, they're already pumping up huge numbers themselves. You don't need to give them more attack. So this is already giving it something that it doesn't need. It does draw a card, but it is weak for itself. It's not completely useless. We're only putting completely useless cards in F tier. This does have its uses, so D tier. Pear Paradise is it good? It's expensive. The duplication of it though could be very good. The fact that it's so expensive can be manipulated. It can be manipulated by the zombies. So you play it 4, they can cover it right up. But say they're not even prepared for that. Say you Pear Paradise, but you need something that could really, you know, knock the socks out of the zombies, like really wow them after you play Pear Paradise. Like, wow, that was a good play, you know, that type of thing. So I think Pear Paradise has its uses where, you know, you play a card and it gets duplicated, which is great, and they have to deal with those duplicated cards. But then again, if they don't replace the environment, then they have to deal with another set of duplicated cards. So it's like, it's kind of like a pick your poison type of thing, where you know, they could deal with Pear Paradise. They could deal with both, maybe sometimes. Deal with Pear Paradise and then deal with the duplicated card. A lot of situations, Pear Paradise really, you know, Kernel Corn Pear Paradise, Ashtavera Pear Paradise. You know, a lot of weird things like that, little combinations, really bring out, you know, the use case of Pear Paradise. So, is it D tier? No, it's higher than D tier because it can get that duplicated process. It's expensive though, which could be a problem. So it's not going to be higher than B tier or C tier. So I'm going to put it in C tier because it has its stuff, right? Mushroom Grotto. 3 cost. Place some mushrooms everywhere. It's good, but not good enough. It's expensive. It did get nerfed. I think that nerf kind of ruined it, so I'm not going to put it anywhere higher than D tier. This card is a powerhouse. So Strawberryan, evolve, draw the Berry Blast. Berry Blast is S tier. So evolve, get an S tier card. Clutch, right? But ignore that ability. Let's talk about the other ability. Do 1 damage to the sides. Is that bad? Potentially. Should it do all damage? It did get nerfed. It used to do it to everybody, which was a nightmare. Oh my god. So, you know, the 1 damage to each side, it could be good. That could be solid, especially with, you know, Sergeant coming up soon later in this tier list. But ignore that ability. 3 cost, 3/2. Is that good enough for you to play yourself? Dry. No, of course not. But evolving a lot of small berries like, you know, high voltage current, you know, maybe another berry here or there, just to get the Berry Blast, could be good, because it could give you a lethal where a lethal couldn't happen. It's technically your 8th Berry Blast, right? You run 4 Berry Blasts, you run 4 Strawberryans, you have 8 Berry Blasts. Kinda. So I am gonna put it in C tier. Pre-nerf, A tier, potentially, because I'm pretty sure it had more HP as well. That thing was crazy. But yeah, C tier for the Strawberryan. 4 cost for Parrot Pals. Useless. Absolutely useless. And I hate the fact that, you know, we call that useless, but it is useless. Imagine Shroover 2, but it only gets the little bit of stats, which isn't even worth the 4 cost, right? If anything, this would be worth, what? If we're going by PopCap standards, 3 cost, maybe 2 cost, if you're feeling dicey, PopCap, but 4 cost is way too expensive. It's useless in that situation. Sergeant Strongberry. He does his thing. He definitely does his thing. Does he deserve anything less than C tier? No. Anything more than C tier? No. 4 cost, 4/3. I like it. Very good. Because you can actually multiply your damage, which is something that could be really good. So this is the TryHard Kabloom tier list. And we're just going to do more tier lists after this. So peace out.